watching Big Brain Energy.
When there's not many firms supplying the market, prices are really high. But when there's lots of firms supplying the market, prices are quite low. Why is that? In this video, we're going to cover perfect competitors in the long run. We will look at the different types of profits that perfect competitors make and look at how firms entering and exiting the market affects those profits in the long run. If you're doing economics in New Zealand, check out our channel. We cover everything you need to know to ace your exams. Let's get into it. So you might think, if a perfect competitor can't change the price that it sells, is it actually even making any profits? Well, perfect competitors could be making 3 different types of profit: subnormal, normal, and supernormal profits. Subnormal profits is like the same as negative profits. Basically, they're losing money. Normal profits is when they are making exactly the amount that it costs them. So they're not actually making any extra money, but they are covering all their costs. We call this point breaking even. And then supernormal profits, supernormal, super good, so they make extra profit. They cover all their costs and they also get to earn some extra money above that. So you have to know how to draw these 3 types of profits on the graphs, and that relates to where the AC curve is. So if we draw the AC curve up high, we will draw it above the AR line, so you can always compare the AC and the AR curve together, and you can see the AC here is above the AR line. So that means that they're making subnormal profits. Why is that? Well, if they're producing Q as their quantity, you follow the Q dotted line all the way up to where it hits the AC curve, and then you go across, and that gives you the cost of producing those items. So the cost is going to be higher than the revenue that they get, average revenue. So average cost is more than average revenue. So it costs them more than they receive, so they are losing money. The distance between the price and the cost, you can shade that in, and that is going to be the profit that is made. In which case, here it's going to be negative profit, so that's the amount of money that they lose. It's the difference between what it costs them, AC, and what they get for selling it, P, and then it goes all the way out to the quantity being sold, Q. So that amount there is going to be the negative profits. And then let's look at normal profits. Normal profits is when the AC curve is hitting the price line or the AR line, so AC equals AR. So here, based on the quantity that they sell, the price that they sell is the same as the amount that it costs them. AR is the same as AC. Revenue is the same as cost. So therefore, they're not making any profits, they are just breaking even, which means that they're covering all the costs, but they're not getting extra money on top of that. And then lastly, we have the supernormal profit. Supernormal, it's super good, so they're making some money, they're making positive profits. So here we draw the AC curve below the AR curve. So AC is less than AR, so it costs them less than what they receive. So therefore they get positive profits, they make some money. So if we were to follow the Q line, the dotted line, up to where it hits the AC curve and across, then that is going to be the amount that it costs them to produce that thing, and then P is the amount that they sell it for. So therefore what it's costing them is less than what they get when they sell it, so therefore they're making some money, so that's good. That area there is going to be their supernormal profits. So the thing about perfect competitors, and you'll need to remember this, it's that in the long run, they always earn normal profit. So they might earn subnormal profits or supernormal profits in the short term, but over the long term, they always make normal profits. Which is interesting, right? It means that cafes and hairdressers and other perfect competitors like that, they actually never make a profit in the long run. They're just covering their costs. By the way, when we say covering their costs, that includes like paying their workers and things like that. So they do actually earn money, but they're not earning extra money above the amount that it costs them to run their business. So that's interesting because that tells us there's actually not much money in these things, which is why we see heaps of people opening up cafes and then they close down and then they open up again and then they close down because people want to get into those businesses, but then they discover that there's just not enough money there. They don't actually make profit in the long run. Lucky for you, you get to learn that now, unlike those guys who started it up and then found out the hard way. So let's talk about why this is. And this is something that you'll need to know how to explain for the exam. So we said that perfect competitors have low barriers to entry. So it's easy for firms to start up. So let's see what happens when heaps of people start up new firms. So if a perfect competitor was earning supernormal profits, then other people are going to think, ooh, there seems to be some money here. I want to start up a new business and get in on this cash grab. So there are supernormal profits being earned, so other people want to join in on the market. Let's say this is cafes. If there are more cafes opening up, then the supply of cafes increases. So the whole supply curve shifts to the right. This results in a lower market price and a higher quantity. By the way, if you're not confident with these kinds of changes on the market graph, we have a video linked down below which you can check out. So the market price ends up decreasing when more cafes open, which kind of makes sense, right? If there's a whole bunch of new cafes that open, then other cafes are going to think, oh, okay, I need to make my coffee cheaper so that people are incentivized to come to my cafe instead of all those other cafes. So they're trying to compete on a lower price. So the market price is going to decrease. And if the market price decreases, then remember that decreases the price that perfect competitors sell as well, because they have to accept the market price. So we can draw in the P line decreasing, so it decreases to MR2 equals AR2 equals D2. Now, if it shifts down, then we have to sell less, because now the profit maximizing point is where the MC curve intersects the MR curve. So now they're actually going to be operating at a normal profit, because you can see that the AC curve is now intersecting the market price. So basically, so long as there are supernormal profits being earned, then firms will want to keep entering the market because they think, oh, there's some money in there, I want to get in on that. So long as people are entering the market, supply curve keeps increasing, and then it keeps increasing, and then price keeps decreasing. So then that MRARD curve keeps decreasing up to the point when normal profits get earned. And then at that point, new businesses don't exactly want to start up because they're like, oh, there's not exactly much profit in this. So therefore that leaves the perfect competitors earning normal profit in the long run. And then let's talk about the opposite situation, if firms are exiting the market because of subnormal profits being earned. So if a firm is earning subnormal profits to begin with, then this isn't very good, right? Not many firms would want to be in this market if they're losing money. So therefore, some firms will shut down, either voluntarily or they'll just simply run out of money and need to close. So if lots of firms leave the market, then the supply would decrease. Let's say, for example, this is hairdressers. If a bunch of hairdressers close down, then the supply of haircuts decreases. So we can show the supply curve shifting left from S to S2 on this market graph for hairdressers. Whenever the supply curve shifts left, this results in a lower quantity and a higher price, P2. So perfect competitors have to accept this new market price, so therefore they are now increasing their price to P2. Think about it this way. If there is not many hairdressers around, then they're going to want to raise their price because they can take advantage of the fact that we don't exactly have many other options to go to. And this is exactly why things like hairdressers will be cheaper in cities rather than small towns. If you live in a small town, there might only be 1 or 2 hairdressers nearby, whereas if you live in a big city, then there are so many hairdressers, so they all have to compete against each other by having lower prices. Now, in this instance, there are less hairdressers in the market, so price is going to increase. So you can show price increasing on the perfect competitor graph by raising the MRARD curve to MR2 equals AR2 equals D2. Basically, firms are going to keep exiting the market so long as there is some normal profits being earned, and then eventually we reach a point where normal profits have been earned, so that'll be where that MR2, AR2, D2 line is high enough to meet the AC curve. Now there is normal profits being earned because AR is equal to AC, so we can draw the quantity increasing from Q to Q2, and then that would complete our graph. Now here's a full summary of the things that you need to know. We've also included the key characteristics of a perfect competitor there, and then we've got normal profits, supernormal and subnormal profits, and you need to remember AR in relation to AC for each of those. And then we've got the 2 situations where firms enter and exit the market. Now let's do some practice questions to consolidate what we've learnt. Feel free to pause the video if you need more time. Firstly, what is the graph for a perfect competitor? Here's the answer. If you're not confident drawing this graph, you might want to practice drawing it out a few times in preparation for your exams, because you'll need to remember this by heart. Secondly, what kind of profit is this perfect competitor operating? Here you can see that the AR curve equals the AC curve at the quantity being sold, so therefore they are earning normal profits. Draw in the AC curve to show this perfect competitor earning subnormal profits and shade the resulting profit. So to earn subnormal profits, we want the AC curve to be more than the AR curve. So we draw in higher. And then if we follow that quantity line up to where it hits the AC curve and across, then that area there gives us the subnormal profits, because that's the distance between the price being sold and the amount that it costs you, and that's for every unit, so it goes all the way out to Q. What kind of profit is this perfect competitor operating? You can see here that at the Q line, AC is less than AR. Therefore, they are earning supernormal profit. What kind of profit is this perfect competitor operating? At the Q line, you can see that AC is higher than AR, therefore it is operating a subnormal profit. Draw in the AC curve to show this perfect competitor earning supernormal profits and shade the resulting profit. So supernormal profit means that they're making lots of money, so therefore AR is more than AC. So we draw the AC curve below the AR line, and then the area between them is going to be the profit. Draw in the AC curve to show this perfect competitor earning normal profits. Normal profits is where AR equals AC, so we draw the AC line touching the AR line at Q. Illustrate the effect of new cafes opening on the long-term profits of the cafe market. So here initially they are earning a supernormal profit, which means that firms want to enter the market, so supply curve increases, resulting eventually in price decreasing down to where the firms will be making a normal profit. With reference to the graph, explain the effect of new cafes opening on the long-term profits of the cafe market. When firms enter the market supply increases, which causes the market price to decrease. This means that the perfect competitor earns less profit. This process will continue until the firm is earning normal profits in the long run. That's an example of how you can answer your questions in the NCEA exam. Illustrate the effect of many hairdressers closing down on the long-term profits of the hairdresser market. Here's the answer. Hairdressers are closing down, so supply is decreasing, and that raises the price up until when normal profits are being earned, and there is no longer an incentive to leave the market. With reference to the graph, explain the effect of many hairdressers closing down on the long-term profits of the hairdresser market. When firms leave the market supply decreases, which causes the market price to increase. This means that the perfect competitor earns more profit, and then this process will continue until the firm is earning normal profits in the long run. Alright, that's everything for this video. Soon we'll be uploading some videos about monopolies, so make sure to follow our channel to keep up to date when that comes out. Let us know in the comments below if this video was helpful, and we're always taking suggestions, so let us know in the comments of what you'd like us to cover next, and we'll make sure to do that. See you next time, whānau, for more big brain energy.